denomination first came into being was a story of us. And it's a story we tell often. You probably know it. And if you don't, you know somebody who was there. This church was very involved in what is called Operation Rescue. Here it was Pastor's Rescue in Southern California. And we were very involved in that activity, and that it was in that moment that God really spoke to us in a very critical way to open our eyes to the richness of the history of the church and to the sacraments. Our eyes were opened and we were changed. And it was because of that, our listening to what the Lord was saying and moving, that we are who we are now. Now, this is a pro-life Sunday. And Operation Rescue was about ending abortion. And it was about standing against the Supreme Court decision in 1973, Roe v. Wade, that required that abortion be legal in every state. And there will be still marches in D.C. and around the world. I heard this morning that we had a pro-life march in Jacksonville. The church there was very involved in the march and in a gala afterwards and fire night. It's like the fire nights that we have here are spreading around the country. We have every intention of lighting everyone on fire. And let me say this is as you probably heard me say before. We're talking metaphorically. We're talking about the Holy Spirit because of when we sing this song that says "Light the church on fire," and I'm like, no, don't do that. You know what I mean. So it's very exciting. Now we also know, right, that in 2022, that Supreme Court decision was overturned. It was overturned, and whatever approach is taken by government with respect to abortion has to be handled locally by the states. It's no longer mandated, which puts us right back where we always were, that we want to help the world understand the value and sanctity of life so that it doesn't matter what's legal or not legal, because all of the people adore and appreciate and are grateful for all life at all times. So, why am I standing here and talking about politics of all things on a Sunday morning? I'm not. I'm talking about life. I'm talking about knowing what's right and wrong, good and bad. It's about morality. It's about us. It's about the gospel. So, not politics. But I want to talk to you, again, this is about life, and I want to start talking about life, and in doing that, I'm going to read in a minute from Revelation chapter 22. It's at the end. And John is in the Spirit, and he's being guided by an angel to see the New Jerusalem. The angel is talking with him. They're having conversation. The angel is showing him the great city, holy Jerusalem. And I want to read what it says. Revelation chapter 22, and I'm going to read verses 1 and 2. I had to bring my Bible out because I only have verse 1 in my notes, but you need to hear verse 2. And the angel showed me a pure river of water of life, a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding from the throne of God and of the Lamb. And in the middle of its street and on either side of the river was the tree of life, which bore 12 fruits, each tree yielding its fruit every month. The leaves of these trees were for the healing of the nations. I want you to capture that image in your mind to do this as we're going to talk about life. In the scripture and in our life, in the world, God speaks to us many ways. And one of the ways, through the words of the prophet and the visions that he gives and the things he reveals to people, is to show us a picture that we can understand what is real in the world. He shows us pictures to help us understand. And he's showing this New Jerusalem, this place, our destiny, our calling, what we in some ways carry with us every day. And he's talking about this river of life. And I'm reading from the end of our scriptures. It's not the first time. It's throughout. And we'll look at some of the other places there where he talks about the river of life. And I want to call out that it is pure. It is clear as crystal. God is pure and good, and his word can be made clear as crystal to us. But that's also what we're called to be: pure, clear, and full of life. And this river, it flows out from the throne of God and from the Lamb. It flows out from the seat of authority and power. This life God has given us is by his direction, by his authority, and by his power, and it is in us. From God the Father and from the Lamb, Jesus, whom he sent because he loves you. In John 10:10, famous verse, you probably know it. The thief comes only to steal, and to kill, and to destroy. We all know that part. But always remember this. Jesus said, I have come that you may have life and have it to the fullest. So we're talking about life and the river of life flowing into us. We're not called to mediocrity. We are not called to get by. We are called to a rich and a full life. And this river flowing out is to give us that picture. Yes, life. Not something we earn, but a gift. A gift that's been given to us. So we celebrate the feast of the Lord, the giver of life. We are grateful. And you might even say it's like we are celebrating this as a special feast day, but it's all the time. You might say it's why we come here every week. It's why we're here this morning. Because we want to express our gratitude and worship to God in the place where our world touches heaven. We know we can come here and have that experience. We know this is where the Lord will meet us. It's not a throne, but it's an altar. And I say that that's where heaven touches earth. It's where the river of life flows out into us. So we come to the altar to receive life. We come to receive the body and blood of Christ. We come to receive life in us. Now today, it's even better than that because we will have a baptism. We're going to have a baptism today. Jane Winifred Taylor. I am credibly informed, canon number 38, grandchild number 38. Oh my goodness, that's pretty awesome. I know, of the people I know that have 38 grandchildren. I know 2. That would be Jim and Chris. So this is exciting. This is a wonderful day. This is a baptism. Jane's going to be baptized in the water of life. How about that? Washed, buried, and reborn in the water of life. That's why we're here, to live that life. Now I'm going to tell another story about the water of life. And it's one of my favorites, so I'm going to be very brief because you know the story. You may already guess. It's the Samaritan woman at the well. One of my absolute favorite people is the Samaritan woman at the well. And Jesus is there. And, well, before I say that, I want to say it's important that it's at the well. Because there's a picture, like we see these pictures and God is revealing something. One of the things that a picture of a thing that happens as a well is that it's about marriage. It's about marriage. It really is prominently used in the story of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham sent his servant to get a wife for his son, and at a well, the servant meets Rebekah, where she receives a promise of marriage and accepts. It's the place of proposal. And you may have to think about this a little bit. Marriage is a well. Marriage, the promise of marriage is at a well where the river of life flows out, and through that relationship, we see new life in the way of children. It's not an accident that those images are put together. God is showing us ways to understand the world as it really is. So Jesus is talking to this woman, and he says, well, give me a drink. And she says, why are you talking to me? Basically. And Jesus says, and this is in John 4. If you read that story 100 times, you'll enjoy it as much as I do. Jesus says, if you knew the gift of God and who it is who says to you, give me a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water. Now, this is a brilliant woman, a woman after my own heart. She says, yeah, how are you going to do that? You got no bucket, you got no pitcher, you got nothing, buddy. How are you going to do that? And Jesus said at the well to that woman, whoever drinks of this water will thirst again. But whoever drinks of the water that I shall give him will never thirst. But the water that I shall give him will become in him a fountain of water springing up into everlasting life. Living water. Welcome to the river of the water of life. That water is in you, welling up into a fountain of everlasting life. Another story. This one is out of Ezekiel chapter 47. If you are planning to come to 3SI this summer, and I suggest that you do, you will hear this again. I've heard it talked about when we talk about 3SI coming up. And it's in Ezekiel. And Ezekiel is being shown a vision by an angel of the heavenly Jerusalem. I'm shocked. And Ezekiel says, then the angel brought me back to the door of the temple, and there was water flowing from under the threshold of the temple toward the east. For the front of the temple faced east, and the water was flowing from under the right side of the temple, the south of the altar. Ezekiel is being shown the temple, and the river of life is flowing out of the temple, out from the altar. It's what we've been saying. And it goes on and it says, and when the angel went out to the east with a line in his hand, he's measuring 1,000 cubits, he brought me through the waters. The water came up to my ankles. Again, he measured 1,000 and brought me through the waters, and the waters came up to my knees. And he measured 1,000, and he brought me through, and the water came up to my waist. And he measured 1,000, and it was a river that I could not cross, for the water was too deep, water in which one must swim. We've been talking about discipleship this year. We're talking about it in our home groups. Jesse talked about it last week. It is that always call of God, calling you to go deeper into life in Him, to go deeper into the river, even at the risk of getting in over your head. That's the call that God has given us. And it is a gift. Our actions, our focus on discipleship, all of that is a response to the love of God and the gift that He's given to us, that we might find a way to see better and to walk more in the things that He created us to be. Deacon Jesse, last week when he was preaching, he talked about this being a time of year, the beginning, people make resolutions where people need to refocus their attention or recenter their lives. And here we have Jesus at the center of our lives. We want to refocus and make sure we're still living that way with Jesus at the center, to recenter and to refocus. My holiday season was busy. I think yours was too. It was like running at full speed. And then you get thrown out into what's supposed to be ordinary life. Thank God, I'm relieved. But you know what? It takes a while to get oriented. Oh yeah, this is normal life. And it's a good life. I'm glad for it. But it's a moment when we say, what am I after? What am I doing? How is Jesus at the center of my life? Jesse talked about distractions, and we live in a world of distractions. I think you categorize it as there's pain that takes all your attention, and there's pleasure, which just takes all of your attention. And so there you are, trying to find, no, that's not life. That's not what I'm after. How do I center myself? I want to just talk about the pain side of distraction in particular, because of what I'm feeling and sensing around when I look outside, when I look in the cultural world that we live in, is that people are anxious. Everywhere you go, people are anxious. And, anxious is the category I have, and I think that it's very big, because people that are angry are probably anxious about something. People that are depressed are probably anxious about something. All of those negative emotions you might feel, at the bottom of that, you'll probably find anxiety. We are uncertain, timid, fearful of those things we don't know. And there's nothing that we don't know as much as we don't know the future. There's a shock. We don't really know the future. There's this great saying, right? And it's making predictions is hard, especially about the future. So I have some suggestions as we're trying to re-enter into ordinary life, find our feet under us, and walk in and enjoy this life that we have. So, a place to start. And this is like, doesn't come as a surprise. You should pray. Let's just start with prayer. But what I want to say is, people pray all the time. And you probably pray all the time. I know a guy said to me, I never pray, but I talk to God all the time. Like, okay, I get that. But if you have in your life a way to set aside time to be alone and to pray out loud, and in that time, I think standard people say 20 minutes, and it's like, that's a goal to aspire to, or that's not enough, depends on who you are. And so it's when you say, I'm going to take time every day, 10 times a week, 1 time a week, whatever it is, that you can set a time when you can be alone and you can pray out loud and you can include in that a moment or many to listen to see what God is saying. Because I promise you that God will hear you and he will answer your prayers. And of all the things that you can do in your life, I think that is one of the best ways that you can keep your life centered on who God is, and then walk out your life in a way that is full of wonder and joy and goodness. I think it's a good path for you. And so I recommend that to you. It's this time of year. And I'm going to say another suggestion, and this one is kind of fun, but it's spend time with people. Spend time with people. Right? Now, when we talk about that, and you say that to St. Michael's, it's like, well, duh. We're going to have a coffee bar out of here, and we're going to spend time with people, and it's awesome, and I love it. But not everybody is like all that, doesn't have that all in their life. And Sundays are great, but what about the rest of the week? So I have some magic words I'm going to share with you. I used these decades ago with one of my friends. Here's the magic words. Let's go to lunch. It's amazing. People say yes. And it's great. Because you go and you sit down, and usually you're sitting opposite each other and you're looking at people. There's a psychological exercise you can do. It's like sit down and look in each other's eyes and don't say anything and see how long you can go before you're just completely mad. But it's hard. But it's fun and it's rich and you can learn so much. And lunches are good, dinners are good because you sit opposite each other and you do that. I used to read. I read a lot. So I would read about sports so I could have something to say. Like there was some football played yesterday, and there's some things you can talk about with regard. If you did you see that ludicrous display last night? You just need a couple of phrases you can throw out there and have a real conversation. I was going to suggest too. This is fun. When I was young, one of the slogans of the day is "Don't trust anyone over 30." Don't trust anyone over 30. It's like, yeah, that was leading to a lot of trouble, and it did. It doesn't work. I was thinking about, I have a recent situation that I was dealing with a young person, and I'm not a young person. And so this is like just this terrible end of the world circumstances. My car's in the shop. I got no money. We get it. It happens, right? Those are just the things that happen in life. And somebody like me goes, yeah, I've been there. It is the end of the world. I've been through hundreds of those. The world has ended for me 100 times. Doesn't hurt to have a friend who's been there and done that because they know there is another side. They know that it's not going to last forever. I remember when I went through that. It's like, you do. Yes, I do. I remember. Sometimes you have to remind me that when I went through it, I was just as terrified and unstrung as anybody you've ever seen. So I may be calm now, but I wasn't then. But it's good to hear that. You know, it's good to hear that even when it's your fault. And sometimes it is. And if you're talking to somebody who's had a little bit more experience, they're not going to be shocked and they're not going to be disappointed. One of the common things that I've experienced is thinking, oh, you think that's bad? Let me tell you what I've done, which I will never do. You may be talking to somebody who's far worse than you've ever been. And if they aren't, they know who that person is. And they're fine. They know what the other side looks like. And you're going to be okay. And they can say it to you, and you can trust them. You can trust them. It's not the end of the world. It may be an end of the world, but not the end of the world. There is another saying I like a lot is, every sinner has a future and every saint has a past. So we get distracted. We get distracted by our pain or our temptation to inappropriate pleasure. We have these things we're trying to keep ourselves recentered, and a lot of that has to do with the state of your mind. So change it. Get help. Pray, read your Bible, come to church, call a friend. Let's have lunch. You don't have to live that way. In fact, God has called you to not live that way. God has called you to live in a world of wonder and of joy, of life, rich and full. I want to say, in this context, just a bit as we get near the end, is that the feast of our Lord and Giver of life is to call back to our remembrance our resistance and our opposition to abortion as a solution in this world. It's a bad idea, and it always causes harm. And I want to note that everybody who's ever been touched by abortion has been wounded. Our souls matter. And our behavior wounds our soul. And we want a healthy and a rich soul that we might live in this world. In Revelation, there was a river of the water of life flowing out from the throne down the street where there were trees, the tree of life. I have in my mind that when I think of the tree of life, I often think of the cross. I don't know if theologically it's fair for me to say it is the tree of life. I'm inclined to, but it is a tree of life. It is the tree where I have received my life. And in Revelation, as it talks about the tree, it has leaves. And those leaves are for the healing of the nations. Those leaves are for the healing of our soul. That rich and wonderful life we live is because God has given us a gift. Not only that we are alive, but that we are forgiven. God has forgiven you. God is not mad at you. God looks at you and sees Jesus. We want to live in that life, that joy, and that innocence. In fact, if you remember the gospel this morning, Jesus said, you have to become like a child, even to enter into the kingdom. You have to be childlike. You have to have that childlike joy and wonder in your life. And if you've known children, none of them are bad. if you meet them in the right moment. They do not carry in their soul the reason that they got spanked last week. They are free. They are free to experience joy in life because they know they're loved, they're secure, they trust beyond reason. Be like that. That is the life that God has called us into. And if I'm wrong, don't wake me up. Because I'm happy and I'm rejoicing and I'm glad that I'm here with you to rejoice today and to celebrate life, make the most of it. And we are going to move now into the baptism, where we are going to continue our celebration of life. So I need the family and the baby to come forward. We're going to have the baptism now. What do we say? The candidate for baptism will now be presented.